In this lesson, we're gonna talk about the box model. To me, the box model is the core of CSS. If you understand it well, your life would be so much easier when working with CSS. So I want to make sure that you get it right the first time, and it's just going to save you hours. And once you understand it, you'll feel like you can build anything with CSS. It has to do with the way content is packed in boxes, and it's separated from other content, and it defines what we usually understand by width and height, those dimensions. Alright, so in let's say you have a div, right? A certain block. You can add a border to that block, and the border is going to have a certain height, a certain width, and that dimension can be different on the top, on the bottom, on the left, and on the right. The border property is then what we use for that, and we specify the border, the dimension, the length in pixels. You can also specify it in other units of measure, but we'll work with pixels. Inside your border, you can have a separation between where your border begins and where the actual content begins. That's called the padding. You can also have a padding on the top that may be different from the padding on the bottom and the padding on the left and on the right. And then you have your content. And when you specify the width or the height of your content, of your div, what you're specifying is actually just this inner part. Whatever you specify for width will have the other dimensions added to it. So the final, the real width or the real height is going to include not just what you enter as height or what you entered as width, but also the padding, the border, and then the margin. And what's the margin? The margin is the separation between, it's like a forced separation that you impose between your block, is starting from where the border ends, to other elements that might be around. So the total width of your div, of your block, is going to be the margin on both sides, plus the border on both sides, plus the padding on both sides, plus what you entered as the width property. For the height, same concept. Margin top plus border top plus padding top plus height plus padding bottom plus border bottom plus margin bottom. Let's have a look at the code. I have the tiles in here, and I'm gonna give them a certain width, which is gonna be 100 pixels, and I want to have a border which is gonna be of 20 pixels, and it's gonna be solid, and it's gonna be we'll just leave it black by default, but I could write, say, cyan. And I also want to have a padding of another 20 pixels. See how what I said earlier is making sense. And now, well, the margin, we'll say that it's of 50 pixels. You can also specify these properties separately. So you can do, if you type two values, the first one is going to be for up and down, top and bottom, and this one left and right. And you can also go like this. You can specify, say, just padding left. This will make it more obvious. You can add left, right, top, bottom, and top. And you can have that for your border, for your padding, for your margin. That's the takeaway here. That's what you need to learn. That's the box model, the basics of the box model. See how the total width, I'm specifying the width of 100, but that's only the inner part, because the real width of this whole thing you need to add all the other dimensions, and you have to keep that in mind, because sometimes you'll be like, hey, I specified the width of 100, why is it still so big, or why is it not fitting on the space? And it's because you're not adding the other parts as well. So this is the box model, and I've provided the image file as well. Now we're ready to move on and to some other concepts.